So the last note about this, if you heard yesterday, Kanye West just made the Arkansas ballot to run as an independent presidential candidate. He made the ballot yesterday. So
Okay.
to get on the ballot as an independent presidential candidate, it's different than getting on the ballot as a U.S. Senate candidate. For a U.S. Senate candidate, an independent, you need 10,000 verified signatures. You have a 90-day fixed window from February 1st to May 1st, and that's for the U.S. Senate. Now, for a presidential independent candidate, you need 1,000 verified signatures. You do not have a fixed 90-day window. You have an unlimited. I could start collecting signatures today to run for president in Arkansas in 2024, and I would only need 1,000 of them. And the deadline is on August 3rd, not May 1st. So it's 20 times easier to get on the ballot as a presidential candidate than it is as a U.S. Senate candidate.
Right.
Just some information I thought I'd throw out there.
I think well, here's the thing. It's very important information because, again, it varies from state to state. For example, at least before the pandemic hit, here in the state of Illinois, if you were green, libertarian, socialist, non-affiliate, you needed at least max 25,000 signatures plus another 25,000 signatures because the state of Illinois would severely vet through every single signature. And if anything was off by like any kind of address or any kind of name error was there, candidate like that name is disqualified, and that's one less ballot signature. That's one less signature to be on the ballot, to be on the debate stage. And we've interviewed the Greens and Libertarians, Democratic Socialists, and non-affiliates, and the challenge that they have to deal with. So it's a monumental issue. Thankfully, though, that's not the case as it is here in the state of Illinois. It's fundamentally different. In fact, it's something that we have never seen before. But again, seeing the situations that's happening in Arkansas, and yesterday we had Tom Wakely, who's running as a Green in the state of Texas, hearing all the different challenges. It once again explains at least why we don't see such a diverse parliamentary system in the United States Senate and the United States House. But also it says the same thing at the state level as well.
Oh, yeah. When they say 10,000 verified signatures, they mean verified.
Yeah.
That means you have to turn in a lot more than 10,000. We turned in 6,514, and we had 5,954 verified, which is about a 91% verification rate, which is actually really high.
Very good.
And 98% of my signatures came from unpaid volunteers. Right. So we almost didn't pay for any of them. My wife surprised me and had purchased a canvassing company who got 200, which was nice. Right. But yeah, it's insane. So moving on.
let's actually talk about policy, because I did bring up COVID-19, but I want to be a little bit more specific about it because I kind of gave a broad question about it. So I want everyone, this is Kit Cabello with Hard Lens Media, and we have an exclusive live stream interview with Daniel Whitfield. He is running to replace, that's right, Tom Cotton, and we here at Hard Lens Media support independent candidates, whether they're running as non-affiliate, green, libertarian, socialist. I think now more than ever the United States truly needs a parliamentary system. We need to break away from the two-party system, but nonetheless, let's introduce our guests onto our show. Dan Whitfield, for our viewers and subscribers, can you please give us a background to who you are and why you are running up against Tom Cotton?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for having me, Kit. I really appreciate this opportunity. So my name is Dan Whitfield, and I am the independent candidate running to unseat and replace Tom Cotton. And the reason that I'm running as an independent is because I very firmly believe that a representative should answer to their constituents and not a political party. And that's really important to me. A little bit of background about me. So several years ago, I discovered a politician by the name of Bernie Sanders. And he had started a movement, and he opened my eyes to the corruption in our government. And when he opened my eyes, I started doing a lot of research and trying to figure out exactly what was going on behind closed doors. So I started with a couple websites like opensecrets.org and votesmart.org. And I started looking at how our politicians and our representatives have been voting in our names, and then where their money's been coming from and where their money's been going. And when I started to realize the corruption and to see how we have so many billionaires and corporations and special interests just lining our politicians' pockets, and then to see how they would vote on legislation that would actually hurt us, their constituents, while benefiting their donors, I realized that enough was enough and we have to do something. So I started looking at my specific representatives, like our House member here is Steve Womack, and then our senator was Tom Cotton. So I started researching Tom Cotton, and I found very easily that he, in 2014, took $8.5 million from the Koch brothers. $8.5 million. It just blew my mind. And then I started to look at how he was voting on legislation that was raising my taxes and was cutting funding to social programs that, people really rely on here in Arkansas. I mean, we're one of the poorest states in the country, when 67% of the children born here are covered by Medicaid. So why are our representatives voting to cut Medicaid? It just didn't make sense to me. So I decided I was going to run for office.
So you're running as an independent. I think it's very important that we actually talk about third-party candidates, whether they're non-affiliate, green, libertarian, especially in the state of Arkansas. Could you explain some of the challenges that your campaign had to face to be on the ballot? And also, as a side note, too, will there be any debate between you and the other candidates that are trying to replace Tom Cotton?
So it is very difficult to run as an independent, number one. You don't realize that until you actually run as an independent. And number one, I don't have a party backing me. So I don't have, all the party donations coming in. I don't have the staff that's kind of given from the party to a candidate to help run a campaign and experienced staff. Mm-hmm. All of my campaign volunteers, they're all volunteers and unpaid. They're just doing this because they want to see Tom Cotton gone, because they can see how terrible he is. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the biggest challenges as an independent, is getting your staff together and getting donations in. Now, as far as ballot access goes, 2020 is a very unique time to try to obtain ballot access, as we've seen all across the country in several states where candidates have had a hard time getting the signatures required for ballot access. And we've seen a lot of relief due to COVID-19 from many states, where we've seen signature reductions. We've seen all-out ballot access. We've seen extensions to the deadlines. And we've also seen the allowance of digital petitions being collected, like in Florida. Now, unfortunately, we didn't get any of those kind of reliefs here in Arkansas. Mm-hmm. And as an independent, to gain ballot access for the United States Senate, I needed 10,000 verified signatures from Arkansan voters. And as an independent, I actually had a fixed collection period, which means I have a 90-day window assigned to me, which was from February 1st until May 1st. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, on March 13th, our governor, Asa Hutchinson, used orders of the state to issue a state of emergency, which banned social gatherings and implemented social distancing. So it made it really hard to collect signatures for the last 60% of our collection period. That, again, was fixed. It's not like we had a choice on when we could collect. So we were able to obtain 6,514 signatures out of the 10,000. And I actually contacted all of the other independents running in Arkansas. And 80% of us, I drafted a letter, we all signed it, sent it to the governor asking for relief, either an extension, a signature reduction, or to allow digital collecting. And he ignored us. So then I reached out to the Secretary of State, John Thurston, and I had to send that letter to him 3 separate times certified. Still never got a response. So I finally contacted them to see what was going on, and his staff told me that he does not have that kind of authority to grant any kind of relief to give us ballot access. So we took the next step and went into the whole legal process, and I sued the Secretary of State, John Thurston, for ballot access. What a process it has been. And sorry if I'm talking fast. I just have a lot to go through.
That's perfectly fine, because we here at Heartland's Media, we've covered third-party candidates here in the state of Illinois in regards to what they have to deal with. 2020 has been a strange year, too, where they actually won a Supreme Court case here in the state of Illinois to be on the ballot, to be on the debate stage. So it's all good. But please continue on with the rest of what's happening in the state of Arkansas, because I think it's very important that we tell people what's happening to third-party candidates and what you guys have to deal with in order to be on the ballot.
So I guess I should state right now that my opponent, Tom Cotton, actually donated in 2014 to our Governor Asa Hutchinson, the guy who ignored our letter, the Secretary of State, John Thurston, the guy who said he didn't have authority, and the Attorney General, Leslie Rutledge, who is our defendant's defense counsel, the Secretary of State's defense. So the 3 people that are trying to block us from ballot access have all taken money from Tom Cotton. And I think that's very important when we start looking at the ethical implications of ballot suppression here in Arkansas. So where we're at is we had our first day in court, which was going to be May 27th, and the Honorable Judge Baker and our district courts overheard our case. It lasted for about 9 hours. The Attorney General's office cross-examined me for 2 hours, and every single question they asked me did nothing but make our case stronger until they finally just got tired of helping us out, and they just moved on to the next witness. Right. So it actually took Judge Baker 4 weeks to write a 61-page ruling stating that we do not have standing for preliminary injunctive relief because she said COVID significantly burdened our collection efforts, but not severely burdened our collection efforts. And she also did, in her ruling, also state that we do have declaratory standing. So what we did was we appealed her ruling up into the Eighth Circuit courts. And I mean, basically what it comes down to is the governor issued orders of the state. Those orders of the state severely burdened our collection process. And so we should be able to gain relief and get ballot access from it. We have a very, very strong case. I'm sure we're going to win it. But where we're at right now is the Attorney General is trying to block us. They're trying to make it take until after the election for our case to be heard, or at least after the ballots have been printed.
Right.
So we're trying to expedite our hearing right now. We filed our first expedite on July 8th. And then on July 20th, it took 12 days. The Attorney General's office put in an opposition to our expedite. And then 2 days later, an administrative panel ruled in favor of their opposition and turned our expedite down. So an administrative panel, I actually called the clerk's office to see what was going on. And they actually did not state why they denied our expedite, just that it was denied. And this was really odd because this happened just a few days after the United States Attorney General William Barr came to Arkansas and was in the same room with my opponent, Tom Cotton, the Attorney General Leslie Rutledge, Asa Hutchinson, and also most likely the defendant, John Thurston. So, I mean, it's crazy what's going on here in Arkansas. And I can't believe it's not being talked about more for the ethical implications that it's basically showing right now.
Right.
And it's crazy.
Because like looking at the bigger picture, perhaps this also explains why not only at the federal level, but the state level, Americans across the board. I mean, this isn't just a problem in Arkansas, but Americans across the board don't see third-party candidates on the ballot or on the debate stage because there's a system at the federal level, state level, and dare I say it, even the county and township level that stops people who are not affiliated with the two-party neoliberal, neoconservative system. So I think really, because you mentioned again, especially early on in the interview about how Tom Cotton got money from the Koch brothers, again, like a standard neoliberal, neoconservative politician. And then you also mentioned how he has interactions with all these other people preventing third-party candidates, independent candidates from being, on the ballot. What is his real legacy in the state of Arkansas in regards to his position of power? What are some of the long-term damages that he has done since he has been in office?
I'd say one of the biggest issues that we've been facing here in Arkansas because of Tom Cotton and Donald Trump would be the trade war with China, because it really affected Arkansan farmers bad. When a farmer files bankruptcy, they file Chapter 12 bankruptcy, and our Chapter 12 bankruptcies have gone up 24%. That was actually before COVID. So it's really terrible that our farmers are the ones paying the price for these party politics right now. And I believe Tom Cotton responded, well, they don't mind because that's their duty to America or something like that. I mean, that's a very similar quote to what he said. It's insane. And, and at the same time, like I got on a little bit earlier, we are one of the poor states in the country. But our representatives, they're voting. He's already voted, I believe it's like 5 or 6 times to repeal the Affordable Care Act when so many Arkansans rely on that insurance. He votes to cut WIC, SNAP, CHIP, Medicaid, all these different programs that so many Arkansans rely on. Not to mention the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, which actually is raising our taxes now. We're paying more in income taxes, and we're just hurting so much here in Arkansas. Right. What we need is a representative who's actually going to, of course, work at the federal level, but continue to help at the state level and help his constituents out wherever he can. By doing things like increasing federal funding to schools, increasing federal funding to the programs that many Arkansans are surviving on, and not suggesting cutting federal funding to schools because of like the 1619 project and things like that.
Right. And thank you for at least bringing more awareness to what Tom Cotton has been doing, especially since he has been in the United States Senate. But also, let's also look at the fact that, as it stands right now, our wonderful United States senators, be they Democrats or Republicans, and our wonderful United States House Representatives, be they Democrat or Republican, are now on a well-deserved vacation. They're away from the Capitol, all while ignoring the fact that we are in the midst of a pandemic, the likes of which we have never seen, a true housing crisis, the likes of which we have never seen, an economic depression that we haven't seen since the 1930s, plus add on to the real damaging effects of climate change. And you address these things, these 4 issues in your policy. So let's actually break them down. Let's talk about right now